You ever stumble on a prediction so wild that your first reaction is to laugh? Well, until you realize that it actually might not be a joke. Well, that was me yesterday, right? Sipping on my coffee, reading an article claiming that XRP could hit $500, even $2,400 a coin. Now, I nearly did a spit take. I mean, $2,400 per one XRP. I mean, come on. But then I started thinking, what if? And down the rabbit hole I went. So, hi, right? If you're new here, my name is Nick, and I've got to share this crazy journey with you, right? It all started when I saw a headline about XRP potentially reaching the $500 mark, with some people even whispering about $2,406. At first, I figured it was clickbait or some overly optimistic crypto guru, but curiosity got the better of me. I thought, okay, let's see why some people think that XRP can go from a few bucks to the price of a used car. So I jumped in head first, and what I found was equal parts absurd and intriguing. By the end of this video, you're going to hear the timelines a major crypto exchange projected and what AIs think about it, and of course, where I personally stand on all of these sky-high targets. Now, trust me here. As someone who's pretty bullish on XRP, even I had to pick up my jaw off of the floor at least a couple of times. Now here's a quick shout out. We have a free educational Discord. The link is in the description down below. And if you're as obsessed with crypto stories as I am, you should come and join the nerd party. So, the source of this $500 and $2,400 XRP talk? Well, it's not some rando on kind of Reddit. It's actually came from a report by Changelly. This is a popular crypto exchange. And yeah, these are the people who help you kind of swap coins that are out here predicting prices like fortune tellers with spreadsheets. Now, according to their detailed report, Changelly thinks that XRP could hit $501.59 by February of 2040. So that's less than 15 years from now. Now, I did a double take at that kind of oddly specific $501.59 figure. Not $500, but 501 and change. Now, you've got to appreciate the precision, right? Well, now let's keep in mind, XRP is around $3 as I speak. If it hits $500 in 2040, that's something like a 17,500% increase from today. 17,000%. Now, for perspective, if you put in $1,000 now and somehow rode it to $500, well, you would be sitting on around $175,000. Tempting, huh? Well, it sounds absolutely insane, but here's a fun fact. XRP has done insane before. Back in 2017, during the mother of all crypto bull runs, XRP went up something ridiculous like 70,000% in a single year. Now, I remember that right. I was fairly new to crypto and my tiny bag of XRP suddenly looked like winning a lottery ticket. Now, of course, I didn't sell at the top and I kind of watched it plunge all the way back down, teaching me a hard lesson about taking profits. But the point is that XRP has shown that it can go on some face-melting runs. So when I see a 17,000%, or 17,000% needed for $500, a part of me goes, been there, done almost that. Still, doing it now is a different story because the market cap is way bigger today, right? Which brings me to another half of Changelly's kind of prediction here. The truly bonkers part. Changelly didn't stop at $500. They went full send and said XRP could, potentially reach $2,406 by December of 2040. $2,406. Now, I had to make sure that I wasn't reading a kind of satire piece here, that would be an 84,000% return from $3. So if you thought 17,000% was crazy, well, try wrapping your head around 84,000%. We're talking numbers that make early Bitcoin gains look modest. So, at this point, I'm shaking my head in disbelief and also kind of daydreaming. Like, what would it feel like if XRP hit 4 digits? Now, if you're holding some XRP right now, just imagine this. You wake up in December of 2040, you check your wallet and see XRP at $2,406. Now, after you're done kind of fainting and regaining consciousness, what do? Now, do you go ahead and buy an island? Fund a blockbuster movie about your life? It's that kind of crazy, right? I actually kind of caught myself fantasizing just for a minute. Then I snapped out of it and thought, okay, let's reel it in. Is there any real basis for this, or is it just pure hopium? So I dug into why Changelly, might actually be saying this. Now, they laid out a timeline, right? They expect XRP to break 4 digits, meaning $1,000 or more, as early as May of 2040. And once it crosses that threshold, in their view, it just keeps climbing to the $2,000 by year's end. And Changelly's scenario here, even the lowest kind of price that they project for 2040 is around $257. That's the floor that they see. Now, honestly, if you offered me $257 per XRP as a guarantee for 2040, well, I would take it and run. That alone would be an enormous win from $3. But Changelly basically said, nah, aim higher. Now, they're not the only ones, at least tossing out these wild numbers, right? The crypto space has its share of prophets and pundits. There's an American wealth mentor named Linda Jones who believes XRP could surpass $100. And Jake Claver, a managing director at DAG, once suggested that XRP reaching $10,000 is possible. $10,000 per coin. So when I heard that, I had to kind of check if I had misread it. Did he mean a $10,000 market cap or $10,000 per XRP? Basically, because, per coin is like, wow, right? Let's just say that if XRP hits $10,000, I'm inviting all of you to a giant yacht party. My treat. Now, hearing those kind of 5-digit predictions, I realized that Changelly's 4-digit call is actually moderate in comparison. But let's inject some reality here. If XRP were $500 a coin, do you know what the total value of all XRP would be? Well, it would be over $29 trillion, and yes, that's trillion with a T. Now, that number is hard to fathom. That's more than the market cap of gold right now, and yet all the gold in the world, roughly $22 trillion worth, would be eclipsed by XRP at $500 a pop. So for XRP to hit $500, it would have to be, at least at the kind of moment, more valuable than every ounce of gold on the planet. Casually, right? Not bad. Now, $2,400 per XRP, well, that's a whole other stratosphere. At $2,400 each, we'd be looking at an XRP market cap around $140 to $150 trillion, depending on how much XRP is circulating by then. So to put that into perspective, that's more than the entire global stock market as it stands today. Imagine every publicly traded company's value, that's all of the Apples and the Amazons and the Teslas combined, XRP would be bigger than that. When I realized this, my brain sort of kind of blue screened here for just a moment. Right? I was literally at my desk scribbling these comparisons down. Gold equals 22 trillion. Global stock equals $110 trillion plus. And XRP at $2,406 equals $143 trillion. It was a holy smokes moment. and I had to stop and just marvel at how out of this world that scenario is. Now, that was the moment that at least it really hit me. These price targets aren't just high. They imply that XRP basically is taking over the world financially speaking, that is. And for XRP to be worth that much, something historic would likely have to happen. Like XRP becomes the de facto backbone of global finance, or every bank and maybe every government or even governments use it for transactions. Or we get some crazy kind of hyperinflation scenario that makes all of these numbers smaller in today's terms. Something big and unprecedented. Now, to sanity check this, I looked at projections for Bitcoin by 2040. Some sources project that Bitcoin could top $2.5 million per coin by 2040, which would be about a $50 trillion market cap. It's insane, right? And then there's even more aggressive Bitcoin numbers floating around, such as $5.6 million per Bitcoin in 2040, which implies roughly $119 trillion market cap. So in these scenarios, Bitcoin would be worth anywhere between $50 to $119 trillion as a whole network. Even those mind-bending figures still don't reach what $2,400 XRP implies. So if you compare Bitcoin at $5.6 million and XRP at $2,406 in 2040, it would mean that XRP's overall value is higher than Bitcoin's by a lot. Now that's a big assertion because it suggests that XRP not only grows massively, but also potentially overtakes everything else. A lot of seasoned crypto people would actually call that rather far-fetched. Many would actually kind of flat out say, not going to happen. And I get it. As much as I love XRP, seeing it become the #1 asset in the world by such a margin is kind of hard to wrap my head around. So here I am, torn between my inner crypto dreamer and my inner realist. The XRP fan in me is like, imagine if it did happen, though, right? And the realist in me is like, mate, calm down. Let's not get carried away. Now, whenever I get stuck in that kind of tug of war, I like to get a second opinion. So I decided to ask some AI buddies about these predictions, because why not bring in our robot friends into all of this fold? And I asked one model what it thought about XRP hitting these prices. Now, it basically said that XRP to around $501 could maybe happen between 2040 and 2050, but it's super speculative. And $2,406, well, that's beyond unrealistic with what we know today. So pretty cautious. It kind of refused to even give a year for the $2,400 target, basically saying it's not foreseeable right now. Next, I tried another AI, and it was even less committal. It more or less responded to it like this, saying that those projections are extremely far-fetched and wouldn't give any timelines. Now that felt like when you kind of ask an expert a dumb questions and they just simply sigh at you, right? Then for kicks, I went over to Grok, right? That's the AI from Elon's team over at X.com for a little bit of a sassier response. And Grok actually kind of indulged me just a bit. And it said hitting around $501 might be possible between 2030 and 2035 if all the stars align. Basically, if the market goes on an absolute tear and everything goes right. Well, that was surprisingly optimistic, actually earlier than Changeley's timeline for $500. But Grok said for $2,406, no, not realistically achievable in the next 10 to 20 years, at least according to Grok. You would need unprecedented global adoption and market shifts for that to even be on the table, likely well after 2040, if ever. So even the AIs, with all of their supposed wisdom, are mostly shaking their virtual heads at the $2,400. They're like, $500 may be fine, but $2,400, come on now. So it's comforting in a kind of way. It means that I'm not completely crazy for raising an eyebrow at those numbers. Now, before we go any further, I've got to drop a reality check. This might shock you, but I'm not a financial advisor, and nothing in this video is financial advice. Now, cryptocurrencies are highly volatile and you could lose all of the money that you invest. You should always do your own research and consult a qualified professional. After all, your investments are entirely your responsibility, and you should know that nothing is ever guaranteed when it comes to investing. Neither I, this channel, nor YouTube are liable for any losses, and this video today is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Alright, I'm glad that we got that out of the way. That's the disclaimer that was rather long, slightly boring, but super important. Now I mean, we're sitting here speculating about 2040 like it's a sure thing, when in reality nobody has a crystal ball. So please take all of this as kind of, I guess, infotainment, right? Interesting information and a bit of entertainment on the side, not financial advice. Now, with that said, where does this leave me? Am I about to sell my kidney to buy more XRP because it's going to hit 2K, trust me bro? No, absolutely not. I'm bullish, I'm not bonkers. However, I'll admit, reading that report and even entertaining those lofty scenarios has made me feel pretty good about continuing to hold the XRP that I do have. Like, even if XRP never reaches $500 or $2,000, the fact that some credible people think that it could someday hit 3 digits or more reinforces my decision to keep a long-term mindset. Basically, I'm treating these predictions as the ultimate best case fantasy. My plan isn't changing. I'm still going to be managing my risk and not going all in like a madman. But I will continue to accumulate gradually if I see that's the right thing to do. I have a little schedule where I like to buy a little bit more XRP every month or so on the big dips. I find it easier to stick to a plan rather than to YOLO my life savings in all at once. Now, for the record, I do most of my trading and buying on platforms called 𝗗𝗀𝘀𝗰 these days. Now, they're pretty user-friendly and reliable for me. And yes, I'll be transparent. I have an affiliate link for 𝗗𝗀𝘀𝗰 that is down in the description. Right, that means that if you use it to sign up, it helps support the channel, but it doesn't cost you anything extra. There's no pressure, of course. It's there if you need a good exchange option. I also use BitGet for some of my trading needs as well, especially when I'm looking for certain altcoins or features. And I've got an affiliate link for BitGet down below as well, with the same kind of spiel. It's an affiliate link that supports the channel here. So if you're in the market for an exchange and want to check them out, feel free to use those links from the description. And if not, there's no worries. The content here is free regardless. Now, another thing that keeps me grounded is our community. Seriously, right? If you haven't already, hop into that Discord server that I mentioned earlier. The link's in the description. It's totally free, and it's full of people who love to nerd out about crypto in a sane, level-headed way. Well, as sane as one can be talking about things like $10,000 XRP. Now, we kind of share the news, we debate all kinds of predictions and remind each other to stay rational. Now, I'm in there regularly, and it's just a cool place to connect. Plus, I find that discussing with others helps not only kind of getting, at least not to get too swept up in all of the hype and all of the fud, right? Now, taking a step back from all of this, what have I learned from this little adventure today? Well, it's a mix of two different truths. One, never say never in crypto. It's been around long enough to see the impossible happen. Coins skyrocketing, black swan events, you name it. Could XRP, shock us all and climb to hundreds or even thousands of dollars decades from now? I wouldn't bet my life on it, but I also won't laugh anyone out of the room for suggesting it. I've seen weirder things happen. And two, we've got to stay realistic and patient, right? Because big gains, they take time, and often a lot of things need to go right. Now, if I'm kind of sitting here in 2025 expecting $500 next year, right, that's probably setting myself up for disappointment. But if I'm looking at 2030 or 2040 with an open mind, I can be hopeful yet sane about it. Now, I am and remain bullish on XRP. It's one of the coins that I feel has a real shot at long-term relevance. They've got real companies and even some banks using it, or at least experimenting with it for cross-border transfers. The tech is solid, the community is passionate, and it's proven it can survive through tough times. Will those things translate into a $500 price? Maybe, maybe not. But they give me enough confidence that holding XRP isn't just a lottery ticket. There's actual substance there too. All right, time to land the plane. So, will XRP reach $500 or $2,406 by 2040 like Changelly predicts? My honest answer is, I wouldn't hold my breath for $2,406, but I wouldn't completely rule out $500 if everything goes right over the next 15 years. Either way, it sure is fun to imagine. Thinking about it has actually kind of rekindled some of my excitement for what the future could hold, even if it doesn't happen exactly like the predictions. I mean, if you told me in 2010 that Bitcoin would be over the tens of thousands of dollars a decade later, then I would have called you nuts, right? But look at where we are now. So I'll keep my mind open. And in the meantime, I'm going to be here, sipping on coffee, stacking some XRP where I can, and enjoying the ride. And who knows, maybe in 2040 we'll all be watching this video again and having a good laugh about how naive or how kind of prophets we were back then. Only one way to find out, of course. That's to stick around and to see. So if you've enjoyed this little XRP adventure, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and stick around. The journey's only just getting started, and I'd love to kind of have you all along for the next one.